Dr. Elena Rodriguez rubbed her tired eyes and took another sip of cold coffee. It was 3 in the morning, and she had been staring at computer screens for the past 6 hours. As the lead astronomer at the newly built Puerto Rico Deep Space Observatory, she was used to long nights, but tonight felt different. Something was bothering her about the data she was seeing. The observatory had replaced the famous Arecibo telescope after its collapse, and Elena was proud to be part of the team that brought deep space monitoring back to the island. She had spent the last decade studying radio signals from distant stars, looking for anything unusual. Most nights, she found nothing but cosmic background noise and the occasional pulsar, but tonight, her equipment was picking up something strange. Elena leaned forward and adjusted her glasses. The signal was faint but definitely there. It wasn't coming from any known satellite or space station. In fact, it seemed to be coming from way beyond our solar system. What made it even more interesting was that it wasn't random noise. There was a pattern to it, like someone was deliberately sending it. She called over to her colleague, Dr. James Chen, who was working on the other side of the control room. "Hey, James, come look at this. I think I found something weird." James walked over, carrying his own mug of coffee. He was younger than Elena, but had sharp eyes for unusual data. "What's got you so excited at 3 in the morning?" Elena pointed at her screen. "Look at this signal. It's been going on for about 2 hours now. See how it repeats every 47 seconds? That's not natural. Natural signals don't have this kind of precise timing." James squinted at the data. "Could be interference from one of our own satellites?" "I already checked that. This is coming from way out there, somewhere in the direction of the Vega star system. And look at this." Elena pulled up another screen. "The signal is getting stronger. Whatever is sending this is either getting closer or increasing its power." The two scientists spent the next hour analyzing the signal. They ran it through every filter and test they could think of. Each test confirmed what they already suspected. This wasn't natural. Someone or something was deliberately broadcasting this signal toward Earth. As the sun began to rise over Puerto Rico, Elena made a decision that would change everything. She picked up her secure phone and called Dr. Yuki Tanaka at the International Space Monitoring Consortium in Switzerland. "Yuki, it's Elena in Puerto Rico. I know it's early, but I need you to point your telescopes toward Vega and tell me what you see." 3 hours later, Yuki called back. Her voice was tense. "Elena, we're seeing the same signal here, but it's not just one signal. There are dozens of them, all coming from the same general area. And Elena, they're not just random broadcasts. They seem to be scanning." "Scanning? What do you mean?" "The signals are sweeping back and forth across our solar system like someone is mapping it. They've already covered Mars, and now they're focused on Earth. It's like watching someone use a flashlight to search a dark room." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "How long has this been going on?" "Based on our data, at least 3 weeks. But the signals are getting more detailed. At first, they were just basic sweeps. Now they seem to be examining specific things. Our military bases, major cities, even our communication satellites." Within hours, observatories around the world were confirming the same thing. The Mauna Kea Observatory in Hawaii, the Very Large Telescope in Chile, and the Radio Telescope Array in Australia were all detecting the mysterious signals. Whatever was out there wasn't hiding anymore. Dr. Pavel Volkov from the Russian Space Agency was the first to notice something that made everyone's blood run cold. "The signals are learning," he announced during an emergency video conference with astronomers from around the world. "Each sweep is more precise than the last. Yesterday, they were just looking at our major population centers. Today, they're examining our power grids and transportation networks." Elena stared at her screen in disbelief. The signals had evolved from simple scans to detailed examinations of Earth's infrastructure. It was like watching someone plan an invasion. "There's something else," added Dr. Lisa Park from the Seoul National University Observatory. "We've been tracking the signal strength, and it's not random. The strongest signals are focused on areas with the highest military activity. They seem particularly interested in our nuclear facilities and missile defense systems. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Whatever was sending these signals wasn't just curious about Earth, they were studying human defenses. Elena looked at the data again. The signals were coming from the Vega system, about 25 light-years away. At the speed of light, any communication would take 25 years each way. But these signals were responding to changes on Earth within hours. That meant either the senders had technology far beyond human understanding, or they weren't as far away as they appeared. "We need to involve the governments," Elena said finally. "This is bigger than just astronomy now," Dr. Chun nodded. "But who do we call? The United Nations, NATO?" "This affects everyone. We start with the UN," Elena replied. "They have protocols for this kind of thing. At least I hope they do." As Elena prepared to make the most important phone call of her life, she noticed something new on her screen. The signals had changed again. Instead of the regular 47-second pattern, they were now broadcasting continuously. And buried in the static, her computer was detecting something that made her hands shake: mathematical sequences. Prime numbers. The same kind of signals that scientists had been hoping to receive for decades as proof of intelligent life. But these weren't the friendly hello messages that researchers had imagined. These signals felt different. They felt like a countdown. Elena saved all the data to multiple backup drives and encrypted them with the highest security protocols available. If something happened to the observatory, this information had to survive. Humanity's future might depend on understanding these signals. As she reached for the phone to call the UN, Elena realized that life on Earth had just changed forever. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars, an intelligence far more advanced than humanity was watching. And based on what they were studying, they weren't planning a friendly visit. The signals continued throughout the day, growing stronger and more complex with each passing hour. Other observatories reported similar findings. The pattern was clear. Earth was being systematically analyzed by an unknown intelligence, and that intelligence was particularly interested in human military capabilities. Elena spent the rest of that day on phone calls with government officials, military personnel, and scientists from around the world. Everyone wanted answers, but the only thing she could tell them was the truth. Something out there was watching Earth, studying it, and preparing for what looked like an invasion. As night fell over Puerto Rico again, Elena stood outside the observatory and looked up at the stars. Somewhere among those distant lights, an alien intelligence was making plans for Earth, and humanity had no idea what was coming. The emergency meeting at the United Nations headquarters in New York was unlike anything the building had ever seen. Representatives from every major country sat around tables that had been hastily arranged in the main assembly hall. Elena Rodriguez stood at the front of the room, her laptop connected to a massive screen showing the alien signal data. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elena began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation, "what you're seeing here is not a mistake or equipment failure. For the past week, we have confirmed that Earth is being actively scanned by an intelligence from the Vega star system." The Brazilian representative raised his hand. "Dr. Rodriguez, you're telling us that aliens are real and they're watching US?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you," Elena replied. "And it gets worse. They're not just watching. They're studying our defenses." Behind Elena, Dr. Chung clicked to the next slide. The screen showed a detailed breakdown of the scanning patterns. Red dots marked military installations, blue dots showed major cities, and yellow dots indicated nuclear facilities. "Every yellow dot on this map has been examined by their signals," Dr. Chun explained. "They know where our nuclear weapons are. They know where our missile defense systems are located. This isn't casual observation. This is tactical reconnaissance." The room erupted in worried conversations. The Chinese representative stood up. "What evidence do we have that these signals are hostile? Perhaps they're just curious." Elena exchanged glances with Dr. Park from Seoul, who had flown in that morning. "Dr. Park has been leading our decryption efforts. Lisa, Would you like to explain what we've found? Dr. Park moved to the microphone. We've been working with the best cryptographers and artificial intelligence systems available. The signals contain mathematical patterns that we can partially understand. What we've decoded so far is disturbing. She clicked to show a new slide filled with numbers and equations. These appear to be efficiency calculations, resource estimates, population counts. It's like someone is calculating the value of conquering our planet. A representative from Germany leaned forward. You're saying they see us as resources? That's the only conclusion that makes sense, Dr. Park replied. They're not trying to communicate with us, they're evaluating us? Elena returned to the microphone. Which brings us to our next problem. We need to decide if we should try to communicate with them. The room fell silent. This was the moment everyone had been dreading. For decades, scientists had wondered what humanity's first contact with alien life would be like. Nobody had imagined it would feel like being watched by predators, the Secretary General of the UN. Maria Santos spoke for the first time. Dr. Rodriguez, in your professional opinion, what happens if we try to make contact? Elena took a deep breath. Honestly, we don't know. But based on their behavior so far, I don't think they're interested in peaceful contact. However, doing nothing might be worse. At least if we try to communicate, we might learn more about their intentions. Over the next 3 days, teams of scientists, linguists, and military strategists worked around the clock to create humanity's first message to an alien civilization. The message was simple, mathematical concepts that any advanced civilization would understand, followed by basic information about human culture and a request for peaceful contact. Elena stood in the control room at the Puerto Rico Observatory as they prepared to transmit. Are we sure about this? Asked Dr. Chun. No, Elena replied honestly. But we can't just sit here and wait for them to make the first move. The transmission was sent using the most powerful radio telescope. Array on Earth, the message was broadcast toward the Vega system at maximum power. Now all they could do was wait. They didn't have to wait long. 18 hours after humanity's first attempt at interstellar communication, every radio telescope on Earth detected the response, but it wasn't coming through normal radio waves. Somehow, the aliens were broadcasting directly through Earth's communication satellites. Elena was asleep in her office when the alarm started blaring. She ran to the control room to find Dr. Chun staring at his screen in shock. Elena, you need to see this. They're not just responding, they're inside our communication systems. On the screen, text was appearing in perfect English, not transmitted from space but generated directly by their own computers. Species, human, planet, third from star, status, primitive but adequate, resistance capability, minimal integration time frame, 72 standard cycles. Elena felt her blood turn cold. James, call the UN immediately. We have a problem. Within hours, the same message was appearing on computer screens at government facilities around the world. The aliens weren't just responding to humanity's message. They were demonstrating that they could take control of Earth's technology whenever they wanted. Dr. Yuki Tanaka called from Switzerland. Elena, it's happening everywhere. Military computers, government systems, even civilian internet. They're showing us how helpless we are. The message continued to update throughout the day, becoming more detailed and more terrifying. Planet designation, resource acquisition target 847, dominant species, bipedal carbon-based. Population 7.8 billion. Units, estimated labor value, moderate, resistance potential, low. Elena and her team worked frantically to understand how the aliens were controlling Earth's technology. The answer, when they found it, was both impressive and terrifying. The aliens were using quantum communication, a technology that humanity barely understood and couldn't defend against. They're not just advanced, Dr. Park explained during another emergency UN meeting. They're so far ahead of us that our technology is like toys to them. They can control our computers, our satellites, even our power grids if they want to. The alien messages became more specific over the following days. They identified themselves as representatives of something called the Hegemony of United Worlds. According to their transmissions, they controlled 847 planets across the galaxy. Planet 847 inhabitants. Your integration into the hegemony is scheduled to begin in 72 of your hours. Resistance is inefficient and will result in unnecessary resource loss. Compliance will ensure optimal survival rates for your species. Elena stared at the message on her screen. 72 hours. Less than 3 days before whatever they had planned would begin. Human military capabilities have been assessed. Your weapons. Technology is 847 cycle enzyme standard. Recommendation. Immediate surrender to minimize population reduction. The world's governments went into emergency session. Some wanted to try negotiating. Others wanted to prepare for war. But everyone understood that they were facing an enemy far beyond their ability to fight. Elena spent those 3 days helping. Military leaders understand what they were dealing with. The aliens had technology that could control Earth's computers from across the galaxy. They had weapons that humanity couldn't even imagine. And they had experience conquering 846 other worlds. The only advantage we have, Elena told a meeting of NATO commanders, is that they seem to underestimate us. They think we're primitive and helpless. Maybe we can use that. General Rodriguez from the U.S. Air Force nodded. What do you suggest? Doctor, I suggest we prove them wrong, Elena replied. They've studied our technology, but they might not understand human determination. We need to find a way to surprise them. As the 72-hour deadline approached, Elena realized that humanity was about to face its greatest challenge. An alien empire that had conquered hundreds of worlds was coming to Earth, and the only thing standing between humanity and slavery was the hope that sometimes the underdog could find a way to win. The countdown had begun. In less than 24 hours, the hegemony of United Worlds would arrive to claim their 847th planet. But Elena Rodriguez and the rest of humanity weren't planning to make it easy for them. Elena Rodriguez hadn't slept in 36 hours. She stood in the observatory control room, watching the countdown timer on her screen. 18 hours and 43 minutes until the aliens' deadline. Around the world, governments were making final preparations for something no one really understood how to prepare for. Elena, you need to see this, Dr. Chun called out from across the room. His voice had a strange tone that made her stomach drop. She walked over to his workstation, where multiple screens showed data from space telescopes around the world. What she saw made her grab the back of his chair for support. Those aren't stars, she whispered on the screen. Dozens of objects were appearing at the edge of the solar system. They were massive, far larger than anything humanity had ever built, and they were moving. Dr. Park ran over from her station. The gravitational sensors are going crazy. These things are huge. Some of them are the size of small moons. Elena picked up the secure phone and dialed the emergency number for the UN Crisis Center. This is Dr. Rodriguez in Puerto Rico. The ships are here. Repeat, the alien ships have arrived in our solar system. Within minutes, observatories around the world confirmed what Elena's team was seeing. The hegemony fleet had arrived 18 hours early. Massive ships, unlike anything from human imagination, were positioning themselves throughout the solar system. The largest ship stationed itself near Jupiter. According to the gravitational readings, it was over 50 kilometers long. Smaller ships, though still enormous by human standards, spread out toward Mars and Earth. Elena watched the data streams coming in from every major telescope on Earth. They're not hiding anymore, she said to her team. They want us to see them. As if responding to her words, every screen in the observatory suddenly went black. Then text began appearing. Not the simple messages they had received before, but something that looked like a formal communication. Inhabitants of planet 847, the hegemony of United Worlds has arrived to complete your integration. Prepare for final communication. Around the world, the same message appeared on every computer, every television, every electronic billboard. In cities from New York to Tokyo, people stopped in the streets as the alien message took over their devices. Elena's secure phone rang. It was Secretary General Santos from the UN. Dr. Rodriguez, are you seeing this? Yes, ma'am. It's happening everywhere, isn't it? Every screen on Earth. They've taken control of everything, Dr. Rodriguez. I need you to get to the emergency bunker in Colorado immediately. A military transport is already on its way to you. Elena looked around the observatory that had become her second home. What about my team? Bring them. We're going to need every expert we can get. 2 hours later, Elena found herself in a military helicopter flying over the Rocky Mountains. Below them, she could see convoys of vehicles heading toward the same destination. The emergency bunker had been built during the Cold War, designed to protect government officials during a nuclear attack. Now it would serve as humanity's command center during an alien invasion. The bunker was a maze of tunnels carved deep into the mountain. Elena and her team were escorted to a massive room filled with computers, communication equipment, and dozens of the world's top scientists and military leaders. General Patricia Hayes from the U.S. Space Force approached them. Dr. Rodriguez, we need you to help us understand what we're dealing with. How big are these ships? Elena looked at the data displays around the room. The largest one is bigger than Manhattan. The smaller ones are still the size of aircraft. Carriers. General, humanity has never built anything even close to this scale. What about their weapons? We don't know yet. But if their ships are this advanced, we have to assume their weapons are beyond anything we can imagine. As they spoke, alarms began blaring throughout the bunker. A technician called out, "They're broadcasting again." This time it's not text. It's audio and video. Every screen in the room displayed the same image. A figure that was clearly not human, though similar enough to be recognizable. The being had pale blue skin, large dark eyes, and wore what appeared to be some kind of ceremonial robe. When it spoke, the words came through in perfect English. People of the third planet, I am Commander Zephyr of the Hegemony Fleet. Your species designation is human, and your planet has been cataloged as World 847 in the Hegemony database. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The alien's voice was calm, almost pleasant, but the words were terrifying. The hegemony represents 846 successfully integrated worlds across this sector of the galaxy. Each world has contributed to our collective strength and prosperity. Your integration will benefit both your species and the greater galactic community. The alien paused as if giving humanity time to process this information. Your planet possesses valuable resources. Your species, while primitive, shows potential for useful labor contributions. Under hegemony guidance, human civilization will be optimized for maximum efficiency and productivity. General Hayes muttered under her breath. They're talking about, it's like we're livestock. Commander Zephyr continued, integration protocols are standard across all worlds. Existing governmental structures will be dissolved. Population centers will be reorganized for optimal resource allocation. Individuals will be assigned roles based on capability assessments. Elena realized what the alien was describing. They're not just invading us, she said quietly. They're planning to completely restructure human civilization. Resistance to integration protocols has been attempted by 97 of the previous 846 worlds. In each case, resistance resulted in unnecessary population reduction and resource wastage. The hegemony recommends immediate compliance to ensure optimal survival rates for your species. The alien's image seemed to look directly at the camera, as if speaking to each person individually. Your military capabilities have been thoroughly analyzed. Your technology level is approximately 847 standard cycles behind current hegemony systems. Your weapons cannot penetrate our defensive systems. Your spacecraft cannot reach our vessels. Resistance would be inefficient and ultimately futile. Elena watched the faces around the room. Some looked terrified, others angry, but she could see determination growing in many eyes. Humans had never been good at accepting defeat, even when the odds were impossible. Integration will commence in 12 of your hours. Hegemony forces will establish control points in your major population centers. Cooperation will be rewarded. Resistance will be corrected. This communication concludes standard first contact protocols. The screen went black, leaving the room in stunned silence. Secretary General Santos was the first to speak. Well, now we know what we're dealing with. General Hayes stood up. Dr. Rodriguez, in your professional opinion, are they telling the truth about our weapons being useless? Elena looked at the data about the alien ships. Based on what we've seen, yes. Their technology is so far ahead of ours that our most advanced weapons would probably be like throwing rocks at a tank. Then we need to find another way, the general replied. Doctor, you've been studying their signals for weeks. Is there anything at all that might give us an advantage? Elena thought about everything she had learned about the alien technology, their quantum communication systems, their ability to control Earth's computers, their massive ships. Then something occurred to her. Actually, there might be something, she said slowly. They're overconfident. They've told us exactly how many worlds they've conquered, exactly how advanced they think they are. But they've also told us something else. What's that? Asked Santos. 97 worlds tried to resist them. That means 97 civilizations thought they had a chance even when facing impossible odds. Maybe some of them found ways to fight back that the hegemony didn't expect. Elena looked around the room at the assembled leaders of humanity. Commander Zephyr said our technology is 847 cycles behind theirs. But they've never faced humans. Before, they don't know how stubborn we can be. They don't know how creative we get when we're desperate. General Hayes smiled grimly. Dr. Rodriguez, I think you just gave us our battle plan. We can't match their technology, but maybe we can surprise them. As the countdown continued toward the alien deadline, Elena realized that humanity's greatest strength might be the one thing the hegemony couldn't calculate, the human refusal to give up, even when victory seemed impossible. 8 hours until the hegemony deadline. Elena Rodriguez sat in the underground bunker, surrounded by the world's brightest minds, all trying to solve an impossible puzzle. How do you fight an enemy whose technology is centuries ahead of your own? The room buzzed with desperate activity. Military strategists huddled around tactical displays, scientists scribbled equations on whiteboards, and computer experts typed frantically at their keyboards. Everyone knew they were running out of time. Elena stared at her laptop screen, going over the alien signal data for the 100th time. There had to be something they were missing. Some weakness in the hegemony's seemingly perfect technology. Elena, come look at this, called Dr. Park from across the room. She was working with a young computer programmer named Alex Thompson, someone the military had brought in from Silicon Valley. Elena walked over to their workstation. Alex was pointing at lines of code scrolling across his screen. Dr. Park asked me to analyze how the aliens took control of our computer systems. I found something interesting. What is it? Elena asked. They're using quantum entanglement to communicate, Alex explained. It's like they have a master key that can unlock any electronic device on Earth. But here's the thing. Quantum systems are incredibly sensitive to interference. Dr. Park nodded excitedly. That's what I was thinking. Elena, remember how we detected their signals in the first place? They were using quantum communication, but quantum systems have a weakness. Elena felt a spark of hope. Electromagnetic interference. Exactly, Alex said. If we could create a massive electromagnetic pulse, it might disrupt their quantum network. At least temporarily. Elena's mind raced. But that would knock out our own systems too. Our power grids, our communications, everything. Better than being slaves to an alien empire, said General Hayes, who had been listening to their conversation. How would we create this pulse? Alex pulled up a map of the world on his screen. We'd need to coordinate every power plant, every satellite, and every major radio transmission facility on Earth, all broadcasting at the same frequency at exactly the same time. That's never been attempted, Elena said. The coordination alone would be almost impossible. Almost impossible is better than completely impossible, General Hayes replied. Can you make it work? Elena looked around the room. They had scientists from every major country, the world's best computer programmers and military communications experts. If anyone could pull off something this crazy, it was this group. "We'll need to work fast," Elena said. "And we'll only get one shot. If this fails, the aliens will know we're capable of fighting back, and they might not be so gentle with their integration process." The next 6 hours were a blur of activity. Elena coordinated with power plants around the world, explaining the plan to engineers who thought she was crazy. Dr. Park worked with satellite operators, convincing them to risk their expensive equipment for a plan that might not even work. Alex and his team of programmers wrote code to synchronize the pulse down to the microsecond dot. Meanwhile, the world's governments were trying a different approach. Secretary General Santos had authorized one final attempt at negotiation with the hegemony. Elena watched on a monitor as Santos addressed Commander Zephyr directly. "Commander, humanity is willing to discuss terms for peaceful cooperation. We have knowledge and resources that could benefit the hegemony without the need for forced integration." Commander Zephyr's response was swift and emotionless. "Your species possesses no knowledge of value to the hegemony. Your resources have been calculated and are adequate for our requirements. Negotiation is unnecessary when the outcome is predetermined." Santos tried again. "What if we offered to share our cultural achievements, our art, our music, our literature?" Cultural artifacts from primitive species are archived for historical reference only. They serve no practical purpose. Integration will proceed as scheduled. Elena felt her anger growing as she listened to the aliens' dismissive responses. To the hegemony, humanity was nothing more than a resource to be harvested. They didn't see humans as intelligent beings with their own value and dignity. Santos tried offering our scientific knowledge next. "Commander, humanity has made significant discoveries in quantum physics, genetics, and space exploration. Surely this knowledge could benefit the hegemony." Commander Zephyr paused for a moment, as if consulting some kind of database. "Your scientific achievements are 847 cycles behind hegemony standards. Your quantum physics theories are rudimentary. Your genetic manipulation is primitive. Your space exploration is limited to your own star system. These offer no value to our civilization." The negotiation was going nowhere. Every offer humanity made was dismissed as worthless by an empire that had conquered nearly 1,000 worlds. Elena turned back to her work. The electromagnetic pulse was their only hope now. She coordinated with Dr. Yuki Tanaka in Switzerland, who was working with the European power grid. In Japan, Dr. Hiroshi Sato was coordinating with their satellite network. In Australia, Dr. Rebecca Foster was organizing their radio telescope arrays. "Elena, we have a problem," Alex called out. "The timing has to be perfect. If even one major power plant is off by more than a few milliseconds, the whole thing could fail." "What about the atomic clocks?" Elena asked. "Every major facility has access to atomic time signals." "That could work," Alex said, typing rapidly. "We sync everything to the global atomic clock network." "But Elena, we're talking about coordinating thousands of facilities across 6 continents. This is insane." "Insane is all we have left," Elena replied. "With 2 hours until the deadline." Elena received confirmation from power grids around the world. The United States, Europe, China, Russia, India, Brazil, every major power network was ready to participate in the pulse. Satellite operators had agreed to risk their equipment. Radio telescopes from Puerto Rico to Australia were standing by. Elena stood in the bunker's main control room, watching screens that showed the status of facilities around the globe. Each screen showed a countdown timer, all synchronized to fire at exactly the same moment. "Dr. Rodriguez," General Hayes said, "if this works, how long do we have before they adapt?" "I don't know," Elena admitted. "Maybe minutes, maybe hours. But it might be enough time to learn something useful about their technology." Elena looked around the room at the faces of the people who would determine humanity's fate. Scientists who had devoted their lives to understanding the universe, Military leaders who had sworn to protect their countries, programmers who had spent days without sleep writing code for a plan that might not work. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elena announced, "in 30 minutes we're going to do something that's never been attempted in human history. We're going to turn the entire planet into a giant electromagnetic weapon. This might save us, or it might set us back decades, but it's our choice to make." The countdown continued. Around the world, people gathered around their televisions and radios knowing that something historic was about to happen. Governments had told their citizens to prepare for widespread power outages, but most people suspected there was more to the story. Elena watched the timer tick down. 10 minutes. 5 minutes. 1 minute. "All stations report ready," Alex announced. Elena took a deep breath. "On my mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ... execute." Around the world, every major power plant, satellite, and radio transmitter fired at once. The electromagnetic pulse was invisible to human eyes, but Elena could see its effects on her instruments. For one brief moment, humanity had turned Earth itself into a weapon. The lights in the bunker flickered and went out. Emergency power kicked in, but most of their systems were down. Elena looked at her laptop, which was now completely dead. In the darkness, someone whispered, "Did it work?" Elena stared up at the ceiling, wondering the same thing. Somewhere above them, alien ships were either continuing their invasion plans or struggling with disrupted communications. Humanity had played their only card. Now they could only wait to see if it was enough. The emergency power in the bunker cast eerie shadows across the walls. Elena Rodriguez sat in the darkness, her dead laptop in front of her, wondering if humanity's desperate gambit had worked. Around her, scientists and military leaders waited. Intense silence, then from somewhere above them they heard it. The sound of jet engines screaming across the sky, followed by explosions in the distance. General Hayes grabbed a working radio. "Command, this is Hayes. What's happening up there?" The voice that came back was crackling with static but filled with excitement. "General, the pulse worked." "The alien ships are dead in the water. They're just floating there. No movement, no communications. Our fighters are engaging now." Elena felt her heart racing. "It actually worked," she whispered. Dr. Chun, whose laptop had also survived on backup power, was frantically trying to re-establish contact with observatories around the world. "Elena, I'm getting reports from Australia. Their ships are affected too. Whatever we did, it hit all of them." But Elena knew this was just the beginning. How long before they adapt? "We need to learn everything we can while they're vulnerable." The next few hours were chaos. Around the world, military forces that had been preparing for an impossible fight suddenly found themselves with a chance. Fighter jets launched attacks on the massive alien ships, which hung motionless in the sky like giant metal mountains. Elena worked with the few functioning computers in the bunker, trying to coordinate the global response. Reports came in from every continent. The pulse had worked everywhere. Every alien ship in Earth's solar system was temporarily disabled. "Elena, you need to see this," Alex called out from across the room. He had managed to get one of his computers working again. "I've been monitoring the alien communication frequencies. They're trying to restart their systems, but something interesting is happening." Elena looked at his screen. "What am I looking at?" "Their quantum communication network isn't just down, it's fighting itself. When we hit them with the pulse, it didn't just disrupt their systems. It created feedback loops in their quantum network. They're having to shut down and restart everything manually." Dr. Park joined them. That could take hours, maybe even days for ships this complex. Elena felt hope growing. "Alex, can you track their restart sequences? If we can understand how their systems work, maybe we can find other weaknesses." For the first time in days, Elena allowed herself to think that humanity might actually have a chance, but the hegemony wasn't helpless for long. 6 hours after the pulse, Elena watched on a restored monitor as one of the smaller alien ships began moving again. Then another. Within 12 hours, half the fleet was operational. "They're adapting faster than we hoped," General Hayes said grimly. Our fighters report that the ships that are back online have some kind of new shielding. Our weapons aren't effective anymore. Elena stared at the tactical display. The alien ships were repositioning themselves, moving into formation above Earth's major cities. They're getting ready to land. The first landing craft touched down in New York Central Park 18 hours after the pulse. Elena watched the live news feed as massive ships settled onto the grass, crushing trees and monuments. Similar landings were happening in London, Tokyo, Moscow, and dozens of other cities, but something was different this time. The aliens weren't just landing and taking control. They were being more careful, more defensive. The pulse had shown them that humanity could fight back. "Elena, look at this," Dr. Chun said excitedly. He was monitoring alien communication frequencies that Alex had taught him to track. "They're sending messages back to their command ship. I can't understand most of it, but the computer is picking up some patterns." Elena looked at the data. "What kind of patterns?" "Error reports, status updates. They're having problems with their equipment. The pulse didn't just shut them down. Temporarily, it damaged some of their systems." Elena felt a surge of hope. If their systems are damaged, they might be vulnerable to another pulse. "Elena," Alex interrupted, "I've been analyzing their restart sequences. I found something incredible, their database. When their systems were rebooting, their data storage was briefly accessible. What did you find?" Alex pulled up files on his screen. Records of the other worlds they've conquered. Elena, 97 civilizations tried to resist them. "But look at this," Elena stared at the data. "Some of them actually succeeded?" "Not exactly. But several worlds managed to cause serious damage to hegemony fleets. A planet called Zarian destroyed an entire command ship using something called a resonance weapon. Another world, Thyler, managed to hack into hegemony databases and steal their technology." Elena's mind raced. If other civilizations found ways to fight them, we can too. Dr. Park looked over the data. "Elena, look at this entry. It's about a world called Valorian. They used electromagnetic weapons to disrupt hegemony communications. Sound familiar?" Elena read the report. The Valorians had held off the hegemony for 3 years using electromagnetic warfare. They didn't win in the end, but they gave the hegemony serious trouble. And Elena, look at what the hegemony learned from that fight. The report detailed how the hegemony had developed countermeasures after the Valorian resistance. But it also showed their weaknesses. The aliens were powerful, but they weren't invincible. "Alex, can you send this information to every government on Earth?" "Already working on it," Alex replied. Over the next 24 hours, Elena watched as humanity began to adapt. Military forces around the world started using the alien data to develop new tactics. Scientists worked to understand the weaknesses revealed in the hegemony databases. The battle for Earth had truly begun, but now it was a different kind of fight. Instead of facing an unknown enemy, humanity was learning from the experiences of 96 other civilizations. Elena stood in the bunker's communication center, coordinating with resistance cells that were forming around the world. The aliens controlled the cities, but humans were fighting back from the countryside, using guerrilla tactics inspired by the successful resistance movements on other worlds. "Elena, we're getting reports from Colorado Springs," General Hayes announced. A group of Air Force engineers managed to build a small-scale resonance weapon based on the Zarian data. They destroyed an alien patrol craft. "Any word from the other resistance cells?" Tokyo reports they've successfully hacked into a landed ship's database. London says they've developed a way to jam alien communications using modified cell phone towers. "Elena, it's working. Humanity is fighting back." Elena looked at the map showing resistance activities around the world. Red dots marked alien-controlled areas, but blue dots were spreading everywhere else. Humanity was refusing to give up, but Elena knew this was just the beginning of a much longer war. The hegemony had conquered 846 worlds. They had experience, superior technology, and vast resources. Humanity had determination, creativity, And now the knowledge gained from other civilizations that had fought back. Elena walked to the communication console and opened a channel to resistance cells around the world. This is Dr. Elena Rodriguez, broadcasting to all freedom fighters on Earth and any other worlds that might be listening. The hegemony thought we would be easy to conquer. They thought we would surrender without a fight. She paused, looking around. The bunker at the faces of people who had refused to give up hope. They were wrong. We are humanity. We don't surrender. We don't give up, and we're not alone. We've learned from 96 other civilizations who fought this same fight. Some of them fell, but they taught us how to hurt the hegemony. They showed us that these aliens can be beaten. Elena's voice grew stronger as she continued. To any other worlds out there facing the hegemony, this is Earth calling. We're still fighting. We're still free. And we're going to share everything we learn with you. This galaxy belongs to all of us, not just the hegemony. She ended the transmission and turned back to her team. All right, everyone, we've got work to do. We've proven that the hegemony can be surprised. Now let's prove they can be beaten. Outside the bunker, the war for Earth continued. But for the first time since the aliens arrived, Elena truly believed that humanity would win. It might take years, it might cost everything they had, but humans would fight for their freedom. And they would not fight alone.